The views and opinions expressed on this program are not those of Norfolk State University or WNSB-FM. Thank you for listening.
It's Hampton Roads Voices on Hot 91.
A crisis is brewing in Virginia's government after a racist photo was exposed in the medical school yearbook of Virginia Governor Ralph Northam. Democrats over the weekend brushed aside the governor's explanation. And although Mr. Northam says he is staying in office, most Democrats are eager for him to resign. They say the governor has damaged himself and lost voters' confidence. Hi, everybody. I'm Benita Adams, and next on Hampton Roads Voices, we'll talk about the blackface controversy. We'll talk to a political analyst and an elected official who will unpack this important topic for us. Coming up next on Hot 91, the blackface controversy.
Do you think it's offensive to black people when someone dresses up in blackface?
Oh, absolutely.
I do believe that it's offensive.
I certainly do think it's offensive.
Yes, because we've been through too much already. I feel like, why are you trying to be something that you're not? And
there's no reason for it. It is not for entertainment. It is not for comedy. It is quite demeaning to African Americans, and it's a practice that should not be continued.
If you're not trying to help the race or motivate it in a positive aspect, then I feel like you shouldn't be trying to put us down or make something out of it that is not, especially when you're not black.
It means something serious to people of color.
That's really offensive to me.
It's Hampton Roads Voices on Hot 91.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Benita Adams, and this is Hampton Roads Voices. Today, we have a very serious but important topic that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the blackface controversy. And we know that there is a crisis brewing in Virginia's government. And this, of course, is after a racist photo was exposed in the medical school yearbook of our Governor Ralph Northam's. That was his yearbook. And over the weekend and over the last week, there have been cries for him to resign. And then, of course, other things were happening with our top officials, and we'll talk about that. So today we will have guest experts here talking about the whole notion of blackface controversy. And we're really going to unpack that for you. We definitely want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this? 757-823-9110. Do you know the history of blackface? Should the governor and other officials resign? Or what does this mean, in your opinion, for race relations? Again, that's 757-823-9110. Right now in the studio, we have Dr. Elsie Barnes. She is a professor here at Norfolk State University in the Political Science Department. Dr. Barnes, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about the aspect of being a professor in the Political Science Department.
I've been at Norfolk State University for 46 years. I have worked under all of the presidents, to begin with Dr. Lyman Beecher Brooks. So I feel that I know the institution fairly well and the area as well. I grew up in North Carolina in the segregated South. Mm-hmm. I went to segregated high schools, so I know a little bit about segregation. I've seen water fountains in the county seat that said colored, whites only. So I've had some experiences in that regard.
Absolutely. And we know that some of our listeners probably have had some of those same experiences. And so that's why this topic, the controversy about blackface and all that's going on with that in our own area, is so important to talk about. Again, our number is 757-823-9110. So let's just jump right in and start talking about the history of blackface. In case someone, they say, I don't get it. Why is this such a big deal? Let's talk a little bit and unpack that.
Well, the blackface image is a derogatory depiction of black people. Mm-hmm. When I was growing up, the word wasn't black, it was colored. Mm-hmm. And now we've gone from colored to black to African American, but the impact is the same. It's a very negative, insensitive depiction of black people. What it does is it highlights the skin pigmentation, the feature size, facial feature sizes, and what is depicted as the empty-headedness of black people.
And so there is no positive connotation of this whatsoever. This is completely racist and inconsiderate and so forth.
It's a very racist depiction of black people that has been passed on since slavery, generations to generations. It has had a history in the media.
Yes.
It's been on TV, and in some instances, blacks were the perpetuators behind the blackface. In other words, you had black shows that did a little bit of that, but overall, it is still racially insensitive, it's derogatory, and it's unacceptable.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's so interesting that you say that, because I remember years ago when I was a little girl, we used to there used to be movies on with Shirley Temple. A lot of you know about Shirley Temple. Some of you may be a little too young for that, but Shirley Temple, and I remember I would see this little white girl with blonde hair and bouncy curls, and she would be dancing with, I guess, Bojangles Robinson, and then you'd see the happy house servants, and they would be serving her, and I would look at that, and I couldn't tell you what that was exactly or what was wrong, but I knew something was wrong. I knew that little girl and all these grown black people and how they spoke to her and how she spoke to them was very different, and there was a problem with that. And so that whole history comes into play.
That history tried to project and display the slavery experience as a happy experience.
Right.
It was anything but happy. Although blacks, African American, colored people knew how to survive, they developed a survival mechanism that in many instances the enslavers underestimated. They underestimated the intellect, the creativity, and the willpower of the people that they enslaved.
Absolutely. And so that is true, making them seem like we're just so happy. We're just happy here. And of course, we know that's not the case. So what is your understanding of blackface and any experience that you've had? Give us a call at 757-823-9110, 757-823-9110. We're here talking with Dr. Elsie Barnes. She's a professor in the political science department here at Norfolk State University. And we're talking about the blackface controversy. What are your thoughts on that? And again, we're looking at this entire history. We'll be right back after this break on Hot 91.
Is Hampton Roads Voices on Hot 91.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Benita Adams, and today on Hampton Roads Voices, we're talking about the blackface controversy. In studio, we have Dr. Elsie Barnes, professor in the political science department at Norfolk State University, and joining us by phone, Dawn Hester, treasurer of Norfolk. Dawn, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, we have a couple of callers on the line. We're going to go straight to the phones. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, please? And what is your question?
Nianu.
And, I'm sorry, your name?
Nianu. Like after Keanu Reeves, Keanu Nianu.
Okay, wonderful. What is your question or your comment today?
Well, first of all, I love the show.
Thank you.
Absolutely love the show. Secondly, what I wanted to say is I don't think it's a good idea that we try to get rid of him. And here is why. So many times we run into opposition in regard to racism against us, and our first rule of thumb is always to get rid of somebody.
Right.
Okay? Even when we're dealing in relationships, that's always the answer, right? Mm-hmm. So, first of all, we're talking about someone who is in and a part of a Commonwealth state. That was one of the biggest slave states in this country. Right? Mm-hmm. So it's not going to help us any by getting rid of anyone, especially being the fact that whomever it is that put this out there is also trying to get rid of Justin Fairfax as well.
Yes.
Okay? So there is a plan of action that's going on. Now, I'm not saying what he did was right, but also you got to condemn the school as well for allowing it to be published, because they also are in support of it if they published it. So I would rather, instead of getting rid of him, put the pressure on him as a governor to get rid of some of these criminal charges that's on our young brothers, that's condemning them for a life sentence, even though they're civilians and out on the street now. Those who are trying, clean up their record. There are other things that we can put pressure on him for black people in this city that can help them in the long run. Again, if we're going to do that, let's even fight. You know, if we're going to get rid of him, we can't get rid of Virginia from being a Commonwealth state that's really hurting working class black people.
I completely understand your point. Thank you for calling. We have another caller on the line. I really appreciate you calling. Thank you for the nice comment about the show. We have another caller on the line. You're live. What is your name, please, and where are you calling from?
My name is Patricia Morris. I'm calling from Virginia Beach.
And Patricia, what is your question or comment, please?
Yes, my comment, I'm agreeing with that of the person on the line right now. I'm from the Caribbean, and I am a naturalized citizen of this country, but I also feel very deeply about those blackface images. They hurt me to my core. But my perspective is there's a sinister plan that's out there, and I do not endorse all those images, but I think we have to be mindful of the fact that Virginia is a purple state now, and the enemies, I call them enemies, because they are about turning it red. And if we get rid of Governor Northam and Fairfax and the Attorney General, then who do we put there? And we are doing those things to the detriment of the general elections coming up next year. And there is something rotten in Denmark. I feel this is a plan to turn, because Virginia is a very important state in the upcoming elections. And I think that is what's going on. And whomever they put after the Attorney General, if that happens, they're going to find something on that person as well. That's my comment.
Patricia, thank you so much for calling today.
You're welcome.
Now, Dawn, you heard what both of our callers said. They're saying, why ask any of them to resign? It seems like the conversation is changing just a little bit. It appears to me that at first it was a rallying cry. Resign, resign, get them out, get them out. And now it seems slightly to be turning. What did you think about what our two callers said?
Is this to Dawn?
To Dawn, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Hey, Elsie, too.
Hi, Dawn.
Well, people have, I think, have had time to think and process. Is one thing. Okay, but the latest news is that the governor has said he's going to stay. And so that was just put out in AP News. And in reference to, I know we're talking about the blackface issue, but in reference to Justin, another woman has come forward.
Another one, okay.
Yes. So, that narrative, too, will change. So I think that, the initial response, shock, disbelief, upset, hurt, all those things, all those emotions. But I think now that people have had a chance to just kind of start thinking and hearing and processing, that maybe that's why people are saying we still have to have some governance, and we still know the direction that we want the state to go in, and the decisions about how how those three executive positions would have to be filled. People are understanding that, and I think that's a part of the decision-making process and the understanding process of how it works. Because, and I do think that, with the previous callers and other people that I've just talked to, it's, it wasn't good, didn't look good, didn't sound good. Yes, Ralph, his press conference was messed up and all of that. However, we got to go forward. And how do we go forward? And what does that conversation look like? And what do we have to do? And I just think that with, Virginia being Richmond, capital of the Confederacy and all of those kinds of things that are hurtful to especially people of color, but just hurtful in our history, then why not make it the place where we can begin our reconciliation on race and have the conversation? Because, every time these issues come up that deal with race, we fuss about it, we talk about it, but then there isn't a beginning of somewhere well, and maybe there are in small circles, so I don't want to generalize it too much. But you got to start somewhere and having an honest conversation on this. Mm-hmm. And that's the only way we're going to begin to change hearts and minds, which then gets to, those other issues of systemic issues,
right,
that have bothered us, and as far as housing and education and work and contracts and all those types of things.
The larger picture, the bigger picture.
Right, right.
That's how I'm seeing it. We have a caller on the line. We're going to go to the phone. Excuse me. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, please, and where are you calling from?
My name is Monet, and I'm calling from Surrey, Virginia.
Yes, Monet, thank you for calling. What is your question or comment, please, for our guest?
Well, I do agree with all the callers that came about. But, we are focusing too much on the past of our history. Mm-hmm. It just needs to go, forward. And we need to concentrate on our young men and our young women who are out here, who have been to jail, prison, whatever. Now they're out on freedom. They're expecting them to pay taxes. They're expecting them to have a job. But yet and still, they are not giving them the opportunity to work and make better of themselves. They've taken all the time to want to talk about Ralph Northam and all the others. But they are not making that choice to get rid of the president, who has done even worse things than that. So we still have him in. We still talk about how we want to get rid of him, but yet that has not come about. But Ralph Northam, I know for a fact, has been a good person for his kids, his duties as a doctor. He has kept a lot of children alive. He seemed to, he's done something a little wrong. We all have in our life. But every time we do something wrong, we're going to be punished, and we're going to be, ridiculed about all our wrongdoings, and are we going to make any changes? Our young generation see all of this. That's why they're not progressing in some areas, because no one wants to give them a chance. But you want to keep other things going all the time, and it's just time for an end. It's 2019. When are we going to stop always thinking about what was done in the past, and let's move on? We all are human. We make mistakes. God is the only one that we have the answer for. And if you're really a Christian, then we need to look at what we're going to do for our country, what we're going to do for our young people, and as well as our seniors.
Monet,
so, we need to move forward.
I understand. Thank you so much. We appreciate you giving us a call. Dr. Barnes, she says that we need to move on. We keep talking about the past. But isn't that connected to the present?
Well, the past is connected to the present, but you have to ask yourself, are there redemptive characteristics that you can look at in persons that do things that are bad choices? And the listeners today, I think, have overwhelmingly are saying that they believe that people have redemptive qualities and that we should move forward. Now, what happens in politics is that the political leaders will listen to their constituents, and those constituents that believe that, as we've heard today, should speak up and let their views known. Now, the question, and people have stated it in so many different ways, does it mean that to forgive that you forget, or that to forgive that you don't hold people accountable? You can forgive but not forget. You can forgive and still hold people accountable. In other words, you can make the transition from point A to point B, wherein people say, okay, you made a mistake there, but what have you done lately? How have you evolved over a period of time? And I think that's what the leaders calling in today are saying, that we have to look at the totality of a person's life. And also, one person made this very good point. You got to look behind the curtain and see who is doing this. Is it coincidental that all three top officials got in this quagmire simultaneously, who would be next in line, and who is behind this. Who is behind this website, Big League Politics, that uncovered all of this?
So that's something we need to think about and we need to examine. Now, we're going to go to a break. When we come back, Dawn, I'm going to ask you to respond to what our callers have said, and we definitely want to hear from you. Do you think the governor should resign? Again, it's just been put out, AP, that he has said he is not going to resign. What about the Attorney General or the Justin Fairfax? Give us a call because we want to hear from you. 757-823-9110. This is Hot 91.
Is Hampton Roads Voices on Hot 91.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Benita Adams, and today on Hampton Roads Voices, we're talking about the blackface controversy. We've heard from a number of you already. We still have some on the callers on the line, but give us a call, 757-823-9110. Do you think the governor should resign, even though a new statement has just been put out? What about thinking the Attorney General should resign as well? And your thoughts on blackface, racism, and all this controversy that is going on right now. 757-823-9110. In our studio, we have Dr. Elsie Barnes. She's a professor in the political science department at Norfolk State University. On the line, we have Dawn Hester. She's the treasurer of Norfolk. And now just joining us in the studio is Dr. Eric Clavel, political and legal analyst and president and CEO of Clavel Consulting Group, LLC. Welcome, everybody, to the show.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
Now, Dawn, I'm going to go to our caller first and then come right back out to you to make the comment about what the other caller had said in terms of we keep going back to the past. We keep going back to the past. Why don't we look at the issues that are facing us now? So we'll go straight to the phones. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, please? And what is your question? Caller, are you there?
This is Phyllis Williams.
I'm sorry, what was your name?
I'm here.
Yes.
My name is Phyllis from Chesapeake.
Yes. What is your question or comment, please?
My comment is, Dr. Northam has been my granddaughter's doctor for 18 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had any problem with him. I've never seen him disrespect my granddaughter. He's never disrespected me. And he's always been a person that, cared about people. And he definitely cared about the children. Now, mind you, I'm not a fan of this blackface situation, but nevertheless, in that time, 30 years ago, that was the thing for them. They did that. It was the thing at that time. So, but we can and we do change. And I guarantee you, the majority of those politicians that are in the White House, in the Senate, in the government, what have you, I guarantee you, the majority of them got a pass like that just as well.
Very
so
interesting.
Are we going to get rid of everybody?
And that's been the conversation.
Yes, and mind you, probably need to get rid of the majority of them because that's why we're so stagnant now.
Interesting.
Because they still have that same mentality. But I can rest assured that I know Dr. Northam was a beautiful person to me and my granddaughter. I never had any problem with him, and he's gone out his way. I had a situation where I was doing a fundraiser for something. It was a long time ago. I don't remember. But, he gave, and he said, I don't usually give to patients like that, but he took, he was really, he really cared about my granddaughter. She had cerebral palsy, and he took very good care of her.
Sheila, we thank you for calling so much. Thank you very much for that call. Dawn, we'll go straight to the phones, but Dawn, what do you think about what they were saying? The past is the past. A person is a product of their time, and we should know that people will make mistakes. Dawn.
All of that is true.
Mm-hmm.
We can't forget our past because you can't have a future without knowing where you came from or what has occurred.
Right.
But I do think that we have to look now to how we move forward in a different way. Times are different. People are different. We have, those of us who have children and older grandchildren, part of, what we've been trying to do is help them build those relationships and form relationships with others of other races so that it doesn't continue. You can't stop it everywhere because we know that, we have some families, at least 33% of the country, believing that they can say and do whatever they want to say and do. However, in Virginia specifically, I want the governor to stay.
You want
I have some expectations for him in that, but I want him to stay because I do believe in him.
Mm-hmm.
Don't like what occurred, but I do believe in him, and that's why I supported him. The same with the Attorney General.
Mm-hmm.
And Justin's issue is totally different.
Yes.
Now, and so I don't know what's going to happen there.
We'll have to see.
I don't know what's going to happen there.
Definitely.
One woman is one thing, but two.
That's a difference.
That's a different story altogether. So.
Now, Dawn, I know you have to leave us. So, again, we've been speaking with, on the line, Dawn Hester. She is the treasurer of Norfolk here in Virginia. Dawn, thank you so much for your insights today. We appreciate it.
Thank you. You all have a good one.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Mm-hmm. Bye-bye. Let's go straight to the phones. Caller, you are live on the air. What is your name, please? And what is your question?
My name is Julia, and I'm from South America. All I want to know is why didn't they dig up dirt on him when he was running for governor? Why now? That's all.
Okay. I'm going to take that to Dr. Claville. Dr. Claville, why not? Thank you so much, Julia.
Well, that's actually a question that a lot of people are asking now. Keep in mind that Governor Northam was, before he was governor, he was lieutenant governor for 4 years. He's been governor for almost 2 years now. And before that, he was a state senator. So he's literally been in politics for a decade. And again, that question is being asked over and over again. But I think it goes back to one of the previous callers and their statement. She said that we live in the Commonwealth of Virginia. That was common operation. Mm-hmm. And one thing about our great Commonwealth in this country is that our history, a lot of it has been hidden. Mm-hmm. It's been suppressed. So a lot of persons don't know about this history, and also a lot of white Americans don't know why it's so bad.
Exactly.
And
yes.
And again, it goes to understanding the why. Mm-hmm. Why do you feel this way? Why is this bad? And so forth. Because again, if you're in your bubble, and keep in mind, segregation created bubbles. Mm-hmm. It created a bubble for African Americans. It created a bubble for whites. It created a bubble and then within those bubbles, you had subsets of bubbles. So those that had, those that didn't, and so forth and so on. But what it also created were lifestyles and behaviors.
Absolutely.
And keep in mind, I think Don Hester was exactly right. We have to remember our past. The reason why we have to remember our past is because the systematic racism that Dr. Barnes spoke about earlier on air, that is the real reason why these issues are very important, because it's those laws post-Civil War, post-Reconstruction, mm-hmm. that our African Americans are really suffering under, whether it be the housing discrimination, education discrimination, employment discrimination, business discrimination, criminal mm-hmm. justice discrimination. All of those have their roots in slavery.
Right.
But if you're looking at the public policy that was created, it was created that post-Civil War public policy, which is where actually a little bit before Civil War is where blackface got its start.
Dr. Claville, I'm going to ask you to hold that point for just a second. I think we have 4 callers on the line.
That's great.
So let's go straight to the phones. And thank you for holding. So when you call in, you'll hold just for a few moments, but we're definitely going to get to your call. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, please?
Hi, my name is Tiffany. I'm calling from Virginia Beach.
Okay, Tiffany, what is your question or comment?
I just wanted to acknowledge I was really intrigued by the show. My daughter, who's 7, was really intrigued as well, and she wanted me to call, but I just wanted to kind of touch on what Dr. Colville was saying, I think it was, mm-hmm. when he was acknowledging, how this is a Commonwealth state, and this whole blackface blackface controversy was something that wasn't brought to attention until like the whole social media has came to light and we began talking about things more. But I guess the question is we just don't know why the whole blackface was a thing. You know, I'm not offended by it, but it wasn't a thing until now when we began to talk about it, and it just come to light that a lot of these other people that are not African American have done this. So, it's just that we are talking about it more, letting people know that this is not okay. And, we just have to address it. But I'm glad you are having this discussion today, and I really like the show. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we have another caller, and then Dr. Clavel and Dr. Barnes, I'm going to come to you. Caller, you are live on the air. What is your name, please, and where are you calling from?
Hi, my name is Soji Akamalafe. Benita, how are you doing?
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good.
First of all, shout out at my very good friend and esteemed colleague, Dr. Barnes.
Wonderful.
Great. I have two things, actually, and they're very quick comments. You see, there are two issues here, and people try to confuse both of them. The first one is emotional, and the second one is political. If we're talking about the emotional of what the governor did, it's wrong. Plain and simple. It is wrong, period, no matter how you slice and dice it. Please don't try to excuse it by saying, it was 30 years ago, or, nobody is clean. No, you cannot say that. If you want to do that, then you should be able to excuse everybody else. You should be able to excuse what Trent Lott did. You should be able to excuse what Steve King did. So that's a losing argument. Don't let us go there. On the other hand, the politics of aid, it's very different. It's a little bit more complicated, but it's very different. Because when you talk about the politics of aid, now that is the winning argument. Because the devil you know is probably even better than the angel that you don't know. Because if you lose all those three guys, now we're talking politics, we're talking realism. It's not a question of, when you talk politics, sometimes it's not if it is right or wrong. It is what is realistic. Because if you're black in Virginia and you care about what happens to black people as far as the politics of it is concerned, then you want to have those three people back in place, regardless of whether what they have done is right or wrong. Again, remember now, that's the politics of it.
So you're saying the emotions and the politics. I love that. That makes so much sense. Thank you for listening today, and thank you for calling. I appreciate that. And we're asking you to call us at 757-823-9110. What do you think about the controversy, the blackface controversy? Do you think the governor should resign? What about the attorney general, who his information came out as well? So give us a call, 757-823-9110. Dr. Barnes, what did you think about some of the things that your colleague said? It's emotional and it's political.
Well, not so amazingly, I should say, it's consistent with the previous callers. The initial reaction evoked very strong emotions, and for some it brought back painful experiences. But as Don Hester mentioned, as they got time to process it, the emotional gave way to the political. And this is what we are hearing today. The persons who have called in have unanimously said that this is not acceptable, but it is not something that you should throw people who have evolved out because of this incident. And thus far, it seems like people are in agreement that the blackface controversy is bad. But do you just scrap everything, throw away everything? And what the callers are saying thus far, to include my distinguished colleague, the answer is no.
Dr. Clavel.
Yeah, so I do agree that it is an emotional It's a political, but it's also a historical reality as well. So the emotional part is, yes, when you see it, the shock is there. You see the yearbook pictures, you see it is there. And it brings back the memories of those that remember. But the previous caller said she didn't see why. She had no idea this was out there. So as she said, till social media. I just want to state that this stuff is all in libraries. Go to your local library and look it up. It's there. But, with that, it's also political. So again, we know the political implications of this, the line of succession from the governor to the lieutenant governor to the attorney general and now the speaker of the House. And now, of course, blackface and Confederacy came out for the Republican head as well, Tommy Norman. But the historical aspect of it, the reason why we need to remember this, because we need to understand, again, going back to understanding why African Americans have been portrayed in this manner. It goes back to minstrel shows where the face was put on to accentuate the features of African Americans, also the type of speech to be shown as lazy, as dumb, and so forth. And then, of course, we talked about the black actors earlier. Burt Williams is a very famous one who actually put on blackface, and people say, why? Because in essence, he didn't have a choice if he wanted to be on stage.
If he wanted to, yes.
And be in Broadway. But I'll bring it even way forward than that to the present day. Who remembers the movie Soul Man in the 1980s with Ray Dong Chung, where a white gentleman, I think it was Ronald Reagan's son that starred in the movie, we became black in order to get close to this black female. Who remembers Tropic Thunder with Robert Downey Jr., a white man playing a black man in a movie, and so forth. With Jack Black was in that movie and the like. Who remembers Ted Danson when he was dating Whoopi Goldberg?
Right.
While she's in the audience. And she's cheering it on.
So are you making a connection? Let me make sure I'm following your train of thought. So you're saying it hasn't changed, or are you saying we accept it more now? What are you saying?
You're right. So I'm saying that we accept it more now because we're ignorant of the history of it. Okay. Because again, I grew up watching cartoons. I remember Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny in blackface, but I had no idea. I grew up watching the General Lee, Dukes of Hazzard, with that big Confederate flag on the back. I'm 3 years old, 4 years old. I just see Bo and Luke Duke jumping over stuff. I grew up with the Jeffersons and All in the Family and the like. Hearing George Jefferson use a derogatory word for whites, and of course, All in the Family.
Right. Carol O'Connor.
Yes.
Archie Bunker.
Archie Bunker, utilizing his rhetoric as well. We're desensitized to a lot of it. However, let's look present day. I believe that this is an opportunity for us to look at the historical part, utilize this situation, especially in light of the 2019 commemoration, to have an honest and truthful conversation about these issues and move forward. Because there are a lot of laws that are still on the books in the Commonwealth and a lot of southern states, former Confederate states, that we can then look at and dissect and abolish those laws and create new public policy to benefit those groups that were oppressed because of it.
And what I want to talk about, we'll take a break in a couple of moments, but I want to talk about, does this help us facilitate the conversation? Does it move this race conversation forward, or can we possibly get stuck here because we're offended and we don't know the history of all of this? And so I want to hear from you, 757-823-9110. What do you think about the statement that the governor had put out that he is no longer considering resigning? What about the attorney general? And also thinking about in terms of the controversy of blackface. Can we forgive our officials? Should we, the expression, throw the baby out with the bathwater, or looking to see if they have evolved and changed? What is your thought? What are your thoughts on this? 757-823-9110. It's Hot 91.
Is Hampton Roads Voices. Hot 91.
Welcome back, everybody. Today on Hampton Roads Voices, we're talking about the blackface controversy. We're asking you questions. Should the governor resign? What about the attorney general and the new information in terms of Justin Fairfax? We have callers on the line. They're calling at 757-823-9110. Let's go straight to the callers on the line. Caller, you are live on the air. What is your name, please?
My name is Eric Woods, ma'am.
Edward, can you turn down your radio
Eric,
just a little bit?
Eric Woods.
Eric, I'm sorry. Eric, please excuse me. Eric, what is your question or comment, please?
Man, my comment is, in reference to the Governor Northam deal, why is it that the black community have to always be the ones to forgive and let things be a teachable moment, right? I mean, he exposed himself, he showed himself, and I feel like once he's shown his hand in that manner, it's time to say, hey, you know what? Get somebody else in. I mean, and to say that, we should give him a pass because, it's been so long ago. They created all of that mess, right? They made ornaments, postcards, just to make fun and poke fun at us, the black race, so to speak. But it's like they had it's been done time and time from, when he first did it, and it's continuing to go on to today. And we have people that, represent us saying, hey, let's forgive, let it be a teachable moment, if we can learn from this. And to go back to that with Liam Neeson the other day, right? I don't know if I don't want to tie you into different stories or whatever, right? But what he said the other day, I mean, here we are again. We have people represent us on television, who's interviewing him, is also saying, hey, you've grown, right? Would they be so quick to say that about us if the shoe was on the other foot?
So you said, why do we always have to do the forgiving?
Why? Yes, turn to God, turn to Jesus, and let Jesus work it out. And and once we give them the cross and the blessing, right, it's done. It's done. Then it's done, and they go on, and right off to the sunset. And here we are holding it back again, and years later we're saying, "Wow, we shouldn't have done that. We shouldn't have done that."
Eric,
but we always have people at the gate who seem to benefit. The gatekeepers at the gate who seem to benefit from shielding these people. That's all I got to say, man. Thank you.
Eric, thank you so much for calling. We have some more callers on the line. Caller, what is your name, please, and where are you calling from? Okay, please turn your radio down. What is your name, please, and where are you calling from?
My name is AJ, and I'm calling from Portsmouth.
Okay, AJ from Portsmouth. What is your question or comment for our guest, please?
The only question, I guess the only comment I have is the governor and the attorney general should definitely, not be in office anymore, and that people need to start, especially, black voters who vote Democrat. I think they need to start paying more attention to the official policies and whether or not these individuals are doing things for their specific community versus just voting for them.
Interesting. So you believe they both should be out?
Hello?
Okay. Thank you so much, AJ. Thank you for calling. Dr. Clavel, AJ says that he thinks that both should be out. And then our other caller, Eric, says, okay, this can be a teachable moment, but why should we give them a pass?
Right. And all of their points are valid. Again, these are very, very harsh issues that we have to deal with on both sides. As it relates to the blackface issue, I will say this from a historical perspective. We have across the world what's called blackface and problem across the world. Netherlands have what's called Black Pete.
Yes.
All right. In South Africa, they have a festival called the Coon Festival.
Wow.
It was renamed recently the Cape Fear Festival. But you got 13,000 people with tamarines and umbrellas and blackface marching down the street. In our home country, in my home state of Louisiana, we have the Zulu Parade for Mardi Gras, where everybody is black, but they're in blackface. Okay? And they've been doing that since the early 1900s. So we can look at it from an artistic standpoint of view when it comes to the Zulu Parade in New Orleans, where they take off the blackface now. We can look at it artistically when Fred Astaire did it. Al Jolson did it with the jazz singer, when he didn't want to sing the traditional Jewish hymns and he wanted to sing jazz music or popular music at that time. So we can look at it from many aspects. But again, I go back to Dr. Barnes' colleague. First it's an emotional part of it. But the caller mentioned what happens after we give them a quote unquote pass or forgive. The policy never changes in the black community. That's why I believe that this is an opportunity for us to deal with this issue honestly and earnestly, okay, and utilize this as an opportunity to correct those mistakes of public policy. I believe public policy is created for three reasons. For one, and in its effect, to control and dictate belief, power, and resources and behavior. To dictate belief, which is power, resources, and behavior. We can now create public policy, reverse that post-Reconstruction public policy that limited our community, including the blackface and all that played a part, and use it to benefit our community. If we don't do that, I have to agree with the caller.
Then how do we do that? Dr. Barnes, how do we do that? It's a lofty goal, perhaps possible. How do we do that?
Well, I think first of all, you have to understand what you have gotten from the system to this point. Mm-hmm. And then juxtapose that, compare that with where you want to go. If you do not understand the public policy process and the laws, statutes, regulations that benefit you in a variety of categories, criminal justice, education, medicine, environment, you are going to be hard pressed to say, well, candidate A or officer A has done this and officer B has not done this. I certainly can understand where people are saying, well, what are you doing for me? You always want me to go along with you, but are you doing anything for me? Well, that is certainly a topic that should be extensively researched, because you have to understand that, okay, if you said candidate officer A hasn't done anything and you're going to officer B, then you have to ask officer B the same question. What are you going to do? And you have to be careful in establishing your goals and objectives. And certainly, as we see today, African Americans are not monolithic in their viewpoints. They never have been, even though we've been painted as such. So people have to process and analyze this from their own worldview, how they see reality, and move forward from there. And I think this is an opportunity to have these conversations and to go forward.
Absolutely. And we've been speaking to Dr. Elsie Barnes, professor of political science department here at Norfolk State University. Dr. Barnes, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Okay. And we're going to go straight back to the phones. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, please, and where are you calling from?
My name is Eloise Cuffy Smith. They call me Lucy. And I would like to make a comment on what is and what should happen to the governor.
Absolutely, Lucy.
Number one, I don't think he should resign.
Why not?
Number two, are we now being held responsible for the things that we do when we're children? If that's the case, I'm 56 years old, praise be to God, the good Lord. But the things that I done when I was a child, I don't do anymore. But I'm not trying to excuse the situation, but come on now. We've all gotten older, and we're all older, and we can be held responsible. If he did that now, then I would ask for him to resign. But he's done a lot of good things for the state of Virginia. That's one of the things that everybody's forgetting all of a sudden. My thing is, I grew up when they just first integrated. Are we going to get rid of the teachers, the lawyers, doctors? I saw something on Facebook. Are we going to get rid of all of those people for how they treated us back then? If you want to go 40, 50 years ago, there's something that happened. Come on now. He's human. He made a mistake. It's time for us to get on it. And my thing is, I love the Lord, and praise be to the good Lord. He loves me too, and I'm a Christian. But we have to keep it moving or do a little bit better, because all this stuff that's coming out, why didn't it come out during the election?
Interesting.
Y'all don't think, I mean, my question is, why did they keep it a secret if it was that bad?
Where was it?
Everything is a time and a season for everything. And right now, everybody's mad. You need to get mad at Donald Trump. He's still a president. Nobody's asking for him to resign. That's my qualm right there.
Lucy,
thank you. Get rid of him.
I
and
see your passion.
Everything and done everything to humiliate women, blacks, and people that are mentally and physically handicapped. And he's still a president. And you're talking about something that a young man did when he was a child. Get out of town.
Lucy, thank you so much for calling. We appreciate that.
Y'all have a blessed day. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to the phones again. Hello? What is your name, please? Hi, you're live on the air. Where are you calling from?
Hi. My name's Monica, and I'm calling from Hampton.
Okay, Monica, what is your question or comment?
So my comment is, when I first heard about the governor and his yearbook photo, I think that as most people, I just thought he needed to resign immediately, especially in contrast with a similar situation that happened in Florida. And I think what a lot of people are saying, and even someone on the panel mentioned earlier, as time has passed and more aspects of what's going on has been uncovered, it's pretty clear that this isn't as simple as this man made a mistake and he needs to be punished for it. This is a man who's done a lot for our state as far as reforming our criminal justice system. He's done a lot of work for marginalized and oppressed people. And the question is, if he does resign and there's this void in our leadership, and, you know, I think it's the fourth down the chain, a Republican or something that's going to be taking his spot, are we going to be giving over his seat to someone who could potentially undo all of the work that he's been doing for people of color?
Thank you, Monica, for that. Again, we want to hear your voice as well, 757-823-9110. What do you think? Should the governor resign? What about the attorney general? Give us a call at 757-823-9110. Dr. Clavel, we're kind of hearing a theme here of sorts. Some people saying, look, he made a mistake. He's just human. You know, when I was a child, I spoke as a child. Now I've done all these things. Kind of unpack that for us a little bit.
You know, both callers bring up very, very good points. And this comes after the emotion. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is now the period where we really sit down and assess what has taken place and we put it in proper context. If we remove everyone out of the state house, both houses, that did something racist in their past, maybe they didn't take a picture with a Confederate flag, maybe they didn't wear blackface, maybe they said the N-word because they were angry. Maybe they did something derogatory to someone black. Okay. If that's the case, then how many will we have there?
Right.
The caller mentioned doing things in your past as a child. Listen, I remember I'm a product of the hip hop generation, you know, when, you know, it all first started and then gangster rap music came on and so forth. And a colleague of mine, we were talking, we were saying, man, can you believe how misogynistic the music, the lyrics were and the things that were said about women and the things that were going on during that time period. Just imagine if we were judged by what we call women during that time period from those albums that were played. You know, would we be able to have any authority to speak on any issue or be able to hold public office and so forth? The caller also mentioned how you look at the body of work of individuals. Right. And keep in mind, and I digress one moment, is that we're all products of our environment.
Yes.
All products of our environment. When you're in that, I go back to that bubble that segregation created. And keep in mind, even though you had the 1964 Civil Rights Act, 1965, 68 Housing Act, and so forth and so on, you still had behavior and practices and beliefs that were still ingrained and taught that needed to be broken. And if you look at his behavior when he was in medical school, 24, 25 years old, and you look at so speaking of the governor and what he's done as a physician, many people have just called in and said he's been a phenomenal physician. If you look at the public policy that he passed on behalf of uplifting communities of color, uplifting the state as a whole, and also women, and so for marginalized groups, can we really hold that against him? Now, again, it doesn't excuse the act. It does not excuse the act. But if this is someone who's willing to put his reputation, his own self on the line to have a conversation about race, truth, reconciliation, and justice, I think that's something that we have to take a look at and see if we value. And I heard the callers. It sounded like the last caller was a little younger than the first one.
Yes.
So, and they're saying pretty much the same thing after the emotion has passed. And don't get me wrong, it does not excuse the act. It does not excuse the act. But if you look at what they've seen from the governor and what he's done, and also what he has just spoken about and willing to do, and he's getting more support from various groups out there, African-American groups, Black Farmers for Virginia has just gave him support. You had individuals from the Southern Christian Leadership Conference that have met with him as well. So individuals are sitting back and saying, wait a minute.
We're trying to get the swell of the emotion first.
Exactly. Exactly. And see, how do we move past this? But not just past this political moment, but how do we, again, I harp on dealing with this issue truthfully and earnestly. If not, we're going to continue to utilize, racist past as political missiles and destroying each other.
We have a caller on the line. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, please, and where are you calling from?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Dorian Parker. I'm calling from Chesapeake.
Yes. What is your question or comment, please?
Yes, ma'am. When it comes to the blackface issue, I think when we look at Governor Northam, we have to look at what he is doing for us right now and what the potential impact will be if he does resign, and who is behind him. If Justin Fairfax goes, are we going to have Republicans then taking over those 2 seats? And if we do, then there's no one to really sort of kind of level the playing field for us. All the things we have right now, you talk about voter suppression and gerrymandering, we won't have anybody in the House to really support us and to sort of kind of fight those things back on our behalf.
So you're saying that we need to consider it more as a whole picture as opposed to just one aspect of it. Let's look at what it could mean, the ramifications of it, and so forth.
Exactly. So we let him go. If he resigns, then that's one less voice that we have sitting in Richmond that supports us. So like I said, all the gerrymandering and voter suppression, I think that goes against us, and that gives the Republicans or whoever a leg up to continue to do those things and not have, like I said, much of anything to fight against them with that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your call. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And we want to hear from you. We're going to take a break, and on the other side of the break, give us a call, 757-823-9110, 757-823-9110. What are your thoughts on the blackface controversy? Do you think the governor should resign? What about the attorney general? What is your experience in terms of how we see race, and is this a larger conversation? 823-757-823-9110 on Hot 91.
Do you think the governor should resign over these allegations? Why or why not?
I think he should resign. I don't think he has a choice. I think the governor should resign.
I believe the governor should resign because you're a representation of Virginia.
He should have known better.
Someone representing our state shouldn't have those allegations against him in the first place.
To have admitted initially that he wore blackface and then later to have denied is a deal breaker. It shows a tremendous lack of racial insensitivity.
Yeah, it's over the top. There's no coming back from it. I feel like it's only right if he resigns.
Is Hampton Roads Voices on Hot 91.
Welcome back, everybody. We're having a wonderful conversation, and we're talking about an issue that we have been engrossed in and to see, and it affects us, and it's the blackface controversy. You heard some of our Man on the Street interviews about your conversation and your thoughts should the governor resign. We have with us Dr. Eric Clavel. He's a political and legal analyst and the president and CEO of Clavel Consulting Group, LLC. We have some callers on the line. Let's go straight to the phones. Caller, what is your name, please, and where are you calling from?
I'm DJ Willis, calling from Norfolk.
Okay, Mr. Willis, what is your question or comment, please?
Comment is your high school yearbook. How many people do you remember in it? How many do you remember everybody who signed it? What happened so many years ago? You can't be held accountable when you can see the obvious years in between. And the thing to think about also is that we're being used, okay? Black folks are being straight up used. I thought I saw this at first, got upset, but I saw the years, and I go, if he resigns, what are we left with? What's going? Well, I saw a black man there. I got a little happy, for a second, but he got attacked. Okay, politics is a game of cards, and somebody planned this, and we're being used. That's my comment.
Thank you so much for calling. I appreciate that.
All right. Bye-bye.
We have another caller on the line. Caller, what is your name, please, and where are you calling from? Hello, caller, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hello.
Hello there. What is your name, please?
I'm Nicole.
Nicole, what is your question or comment for us?
I just wanted to comment, similar with some other callers, I'm not calling for Governor Northam to resign. I have gotten to collaborate with him professionally in my job where I work as an advocate for those with disabilities. And he has done some positive things. So I think sometimes the best recourse is to double down on your good efforts that support people of color and minorities to show us that you're not that person that still represents racist ideals.
So you're saying that you have to look at it as a total package, as some of our callers were saying, in terms of not just one aspect, but what have you done in the years since?
Yes, and also this could be used as a political tool so that he is forced to rise to the occasion to do more for marginalized communities to demonstrate, where his values are now, and he could use this to uplift more people.
Very interesting. Thank you, Nicole, for that call.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we have a couple of more callers on the line. Then Dr. Clavel, I'm going to come to you. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, please, and where are you calling from?
My name is Rayford Moore, and I'm calling from Norfolk, Virginia.
Okay, can you turn your radio down just a tiny bit? It seems like it's a little bit of feedback.
Okay, it's turned down.
Okay.
My name is Rayford Moore, and I'm calling from Norfolk, Virginia.
Okay, Mr. Moore, what is your question or comment, please?
My comment is, everybody has skeletons in their closet.
Mm-hmm.
If walls could talk, the Black Caucus probably wouldn't have nobody in it. They need to stop jumping the gun and automatically assuming that these people that the governor and them are bad people. People have a past.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, everybody has a past. And
so
I feel like people jump the gun and always want to just throw people out of office and all of that. They have no idea what would happen to this state if they get rid of all three of these Democrats. Trump will have his way.
Very interesting.
That's the way I feel.
Thank you, Mr. Moore, for your call and for your comments. Let's head back to the phones. You're live on the air. What is your name, please, and where are you calling from?
Hello, my name is Dee, and I'm calling from Portsmouth.
Okay, Dee, what's your question or comment?
My comment is, I voted for Governor Northam, and I don't feel like he should resign.
Okay.
I feel like resigning will be a sign of weakness of his. I think that we all make mistakes. I'm 50 years old. I grew up with that blackface thing. Yes, I felt some type of way, but why is it such a big deal when a white person has a black face, but the black people can run around with white faces and it's funny? I don't think we should judge if we're going to laugh at one thing and not the other. My mama always told me what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So if you get upset with the black faces, then you need to get upset with the black people with the white faces.
Interesting perspective, Dee. Thank you so much for your call.
Thank you.
We want to hear from you, 823-9110. Many of our callers are saying, let's look at the bigger picture, not just one incident. Do you have a thought on if you think the governor should resign? Also, what about the attorney general? We're talking about the blackface controversy. Your perspective on that, your history. Give us a call, 757-823-9110. Dr. Clavel, we're hearing mixed voices, but many, again, are saying, no, I don't think he should resign. And it was very interesting that one of our callers was saying maybe this is a rallying call to have him step up to the plate and get some things done. Very interesting.
Right, it is. And that particular comment came from a young lady that she said she worked with him.
Yes.
So again, it goes to knowing him personally, but also looking at the record, the public policy record. When he started running for public office, he knew that on the Democratic side, you had to have support of the African-American community. If he felt that way about the African-American community, he could have easily gone to the Republican side and gotten elected in the same district that he lives in over from Virginia Beach area. So it's not when you look at what took place, it's not excusing the act. It's not excusing the act. But you have to put it into context, time period in context. If you look at Virginia, the Commonwealth, during that time period, that was standard operation for a lot of people who were in those bubbles that saw that in their homes around their friends, those segregated schools, especially those out of the city. And I put city in quotations. You know, you have only like 4 or 5 major cities in the Commonwealth. Everything else is
very rural.
Very rural. You can do a lot of things in those rural areas that no one would ever know about unless they speak about them. So again, it's not excusing the act, but understanding the time period. The caller is exactly right. This is an opportunity, and I've been an advocate of this, and I believe it, as a rallying point, as you stated, to come to the actual policy, the real policy that has victimized African Americans, not just from a symbolism or art standpoint, where you have the blackface and how it was performed, but from a public policy standpoint to help to dictate belief, behavior, and the most important, as I like to focus on economics, resources.
Right.
How can we now help those marginalized groups to be part of the American dream, to give them a hand up and not a hand out, okay, in order to not oppress them, but to uplift them. And then that's a very important distinction, what people believe, oh, we're doing this for the black community.
Okay, let's go back to the phones. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, please, and where are you calling from? Hello?
My name is Willie Williams, and I am calling from Hampton, Virginia.
Mr. Williams, thank you for calling. What is your question or comment, please?
My comment is I went to school with Ralph over on Eastern Shore. He was my co-captain in basketball and in track. I know him to be a very credible person. This is something that I feel just like when you're in college, you're still experimenting. And a lot of people experimented. Vanessa Williams you remember what happened to her.
Yes.
But we don't want to get used in this thing. He gave me my first pair of track shoes, which led me to Hampton University to be an All-American in track and field. I know his brother, his family. He's a good man. And everyone gets caught up every now and then. I think that, some organizations you join, it might be the Masons. People say they're good or bad. And once you find out it's not for you, then you change. And I feel like we shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, they would say.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
And
I
that's my
appreciate
comment.
it. Thank you so much for calling. Okay, we have more callers on the line. What is your name, please? You're live on the air.
Yes, my name is Robert.
Robert?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Robert, what is your question or comment, please?
Oh, no, I just think with the whole blackface issue, I just think any time that you probably get all across white America, you get somebody that's over the age of 50, blackface, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if any politician, any of them on any side, because it was, they were allowed to do that. It wasn't an issue. So there's a lot of them that's like that. So I just think that, not excusing any of them, but I'm just saying there's still more to come every day.
Interesting. So you say anybody over 50, we have experience with that. We understand it.
Yeah, exactly. And they might have done it. Now, the generations now, I mean, there still are issues, but, they grew up together a little bit more, than like back in the the early 60s, 70s, and even before even then, they were just blackface for nothing. The government allowed them to feel it was okay for them to do that, and there's no repercussion behind it. And they had it that way. So, I mean, I'm not even surprised. I mean, there's still more to come. And you and I think all the listeners realize that too. There's still more to come.
More to come.
He's not the only one. Absolutely. Now, the thing with Justin Fairfax, it's always a tough situation whenever you have anything that's dealing with sexual misconduct, because you have both sides. You have to be sensitive and be open to both sides of the equation. So it's tough. I mean, it's always an issue because you don't know what happened. Nobody was there, but we all learned throughout, with the different women who came forward years later and now they have credibility. They've been keeping that inside for a long time. Now that we hear that sometimes athletes and famous people, politicians can get us maybe question, make that person, this victim may feel they'd be scared to come out. Now, actuality, we should have listened to some of them because they had something to say. So it's just always tough, you know. It's just, should he resign? It's just tough because there are allegations. He may feel that if he resigns, that may feel like he may be admitting he did some type of wrongdoing. So it's just a lot of layers to it. Situations like that are just never good. I mean, they're just not. Because everybody on both sides, you know, are right if you really look at it sometimes.
Robert, thank you so much for your call. We appreciate it. Okay, we have another caller on the line. Caller, what is your name, please, and where are you calling from? And please
My name is Pamela. I'm calling from Portsmouth.
Okay, Pamela, can you turn your radio down just a little bit, please? Okay. Okay, Pam, what is your question or your comment?
Well, my comment is this. From the beginning of this whole situation, my whole thing was the publisher.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I look at the publisher. I don't care what kind of book it is, a yearbook, whatever. It had to go through some other hands.
Mm-hmm.
I have a problem with the publisher. Then again, I don't have a problem with the publisher. I have a problem with black people being used. Whatever a race card is, we play it. But I look at the protesters that stood out in front of the state capitol wanting him to resign while they stood out front. But if 5 KKKs had showed up in front of that same building, all of us would have left.
Interesting.
And then Senator Lucas, I see her in the paper today, she almost down to her knees. It's like we can't take too much more of this, and Donald Trump is sitting back laughing and getting his way right now because we as Virginians are taken away from the man that is in charge of this whole United States of America.
Pam, thank you so much for that call and your comments.
All right, thank you.
We've heard a lot, Dr. Claville. But make a comment. I've heard this several times this evening about blacks being used.
Yes.
What do you think that is entailing? What are we thinking? What are we feeling here?
You know, Renita, I think it goes back to what I spoke about earlier, where this is a good thing if we really deal with these issues honestly and earnestly and truthfully and really deal with the problems that creates the blackface, that creates the Confederate flag, the pride, and that creates all these negative connotations for African Americans, okay? And these are these public policies and laws that we have to go back and look at and say we were wrong. The nation has to say that we were wrong, that we gave an unfair advantage to white Americans, and then we gave a unfair disadvantage to African Americans, and I also want to say Native Americans as well, because they get lost. And of course, we have the Washington football team that have their mascot, which is seen as a derogatory. Even the name is seen as derogatory. Right. So it's not a black face, but it's a red face. And they utilize a derogatory term for it. And people are standing behind it, saying we're going to have this. So when people say that we're being used, that, as the last caller said, the people are out there marching, taking off work, missing classes, doing whatever that they do on an average day, saying we want you to resign. But then after that's done, after you are on the front lines, after you're doing the hard work, standing in the cold, in the element, putting your face out there, putting your body out there, and putting your beliefs out there, and you go home, what changes in the Capitol?
Now what?
And then what changes in your community? If you look in the last 60 years, and I would say 1970 to actually 50 years, 1972, let's just say 2020, we're almost there. The last 50 years, African Americans have been the most dedicated voting bloc for the Democratic Party, okay? And if you look at your neighborhood, go back to your old neighborhood and ask yourself, is it better? If you left your own neighborhood, is it better or is it worse? You know, look at the state of the African American family. Ask yourself, since 1970 to now, is it better or is it worse? Ask yourself from 1970 to now, since you've been voting, either side. I'm just using the Democrats because that's a large voting bloc for the party that African Americans are part of. But either side, Democrat, Republican, Independent, no matter whose side you vote for,
Right.
tell me, if you look at the state of Black America, is it better pre-civil rights or is it worse post-civil rights? Okay? And when I say that, I remember growing up myself. Our neighborhood, my father was a small business owner. We went to a Black church. The gas station was owned by someone Black. Our insurance agent was Black. Our judges, our lawyers that we saw were Black.
They were Black.
Everybody was Black. And you saw our teachers were Black.
Yes, they were.
You saw these images of Black ownership, Black intellect. We had our Black societies, our debutantes, our botillions.
We did.
We had all these things that said you are someone, and carry yourself like you're someone.
That's right.
And don't let anybody tell you different. And if they do, stand up to it and don't even believe it. Okay? So 50 years later, after the 1970, a lot of people are expressing this now, those who are older, saying, you know what? We've been voting. We've been voting. We've been giving. We've been giving. We've allowed you to come into our churches. We've allowed you to come to our homes and so forth. And we're being used.
And we're being used.
Nothing is changing. So, again, I believe that this is a terrible situation. It does not excuse the act. It does not excuse it. But I believe that it could not have happened at a better time, given the 400-year commemoration
400, yes.
of the arrival of the first Africans here. We're here at Norfolk State University. You have a wonderful professor couple, Dr. Cassandra Newby-Alexander and Dr. Bill Alexander, who have worked with the Making of America Conference 1619. I've also worked with them and then the entire department that they're part of, the School of Liberal Arts. And we have an opportunity here in September of 2019 to bring attention to these important issues.
Right. They're very important.
So that the world can see it, the Commonwealth can understand it. Well, first of all, the surrounding Norfolk State community can understand it.
Right.
Hampton Roads, the Commonwealth, the country, and even the world itself. Because the world has a blackface problem.
They do. Let's go ahead and take a break. Again, on the other side, give us a call, 757-823-9110. We're talking about the blackface controversy. Do you think the governor should resign? What about the attorney general? Give us a call, 757-823-9110. This is Hot 91.
Is Hampton Roads Voices. Hot 91.
If you're just joining us, I'm Benita Adams, and today on Hampton Roads Voices, we've had a wonderful conversation about the blackface controversy. Still with us here in the studio, we have Dr. Eric Clavel, political and legal analyst. And of course, we've been hearing from you at 823-9110. Let's go straight to the phones. We have a caller on the line. Caller, what is your name, please, and where are you calling from?
Yes, my name is Mr. Kenny.
Kenny.
Calling from Portsmouth.
Wonderful.
Yes,
Kenny, what is your question or comment?
my comment is, prior to the governor, all these people getting elected, this information has been in front of us the whole time. And why is it now that it's coming out? Because I feel right now it's a cover-up for something else.
So you said, where was this information all along, you're saying, Kenny?
Yeah, it's been in front of us all along. Now why is it coming out now? You know, you have the governor blackface, the attorney blackface, and then the lieutenant governor.
Right, exactly. So you're saying all of this is coming out at one time.
Information has been there.
Right, and you're wondering. Kenny, thank you so much for your call, and thank you so much for your comments. We appreciate it. We have another caller on the line. Caller, what is your name, please, and where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Newport News.
And what is your question or your comment, please?
Well, my comment is that some of these comments that have been made lately are certainly food for thought. I think it's wonderful that people are willing to give him a pass on this. I, too, feel that this is a conspiracy of some sort to get rid of our Democratic leadership so that it can be replaced, maybe a runoff, with our Republicans. And I think that is just not acceptable. My vote would be for naught. So I say as one of your callers said, let him stay. Let them make amends.
And would that satisfy you for him to make amends?
If he continues the good work that he's been doing so far, I think that it would go a long way to help.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel that that's a different generation, a different culture. And I know growing up myself, I'm over 60, and I know growing up myself, not that it was acceptable, but I know a lot of people that are friends of mine now that grew up hearing the N-word refer to us at the dinner table. It wasn't an issue for them. And if I'm not mistaken, our good governor grew up on Old Nancock. There were black people over there. There are black people over there. But I'm sure that his culture also dictated how he felt and what he thought was funny and not funny. The fact that he understands now, I'm willing to let him do and continue to do the great job that he's been doing so far. For our lieutenant governor, the jury's still not out on that.
Not out yet.
Not out. I think that we need to see and hear more. But if it's not substantiated, let him go and let them all do the job that we voted them in to do.
Thank you. Thank you so much for calling. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Dr. Clavell, what does amends look like? What does it look like? We say stay, but what does it look like?
Right. So, again, I think the first start is really sitting and addressing the Commonwealth and the people. And really, he's going to be addressing the nation.
Mm-hmm.
We've never had a governor post-civil rights to have to deal with this issue, okay? Most of the governors we've had in the former South, and we've had other governors in the Midwest and North, in similar situation pre-civil rights, but most of them had this legacy. It was accepted. The voters embraced it.
Mm-hmm.
The black community didn't really have a lot of political power, and there wasn't a lot of sympathy there for African Americans at that particular time to really push out a white power structure, political power structure. So with that being the case, he's going to be the first sitting governor. And keep in mind, he is the last white male Democratic governor in the South. Okay?
Interesting.
So he'll be the one, and last man standing, to really deal with this issue and address the country and the world about this issue. It'll probably be the most important racial reconciliation speech that we've heard by someone white.
Wow. Okay.
When he comes out to address it, he's going to stay. I mean, he's made that in his mind, and he's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
Okay.
He's mentioned that.
So that first news conference, that first speech in the office of the governor, it's going to be very important. That's going to set the stage for what amends is. Amends should look like this: address it, admit it, want to make amends by saying it was wrong. You didn't understand it then. I understand it more now. But I want to understand it not just for myself, but for my son, my children, my children's children, for my friends who also did that, their children, their children's children, and also for those whose stories were never told. The Burt Williams, who had to do what he had to do, the Bojangles Robinson, who had to do what he had to do, but never was able, the Louis Armstrong, whose tapes were exposed where he was just grappling with having to deal with the racism behind the scenes. But old Satchmo put the smile on, and we love to hear him play. So for them who didn't have a chance to tell their story, and for moving forward to really help to start, and I believe, because we've never dealt with this in America, South Africa did, South America, I believe Brazil did as well, but a Truth, Justice, and Race Reconciliation Commission. We need that. And also, he could start that in the governor's cabinet. And the legislature, now that we have some Republicans kind of involved in this a little bit now, with Tommy Norman and his yearbook coming out as an editor, but not pitcher in anything at VMI, now the legislature can be on board to say, listen, let's create a commission to study these laws that were put in place post-Reconstruction, and we still have on the books that came out of the black codes, okay? They're still on the books, which also includes voter suppression laws, and say, listen, this is not right. What should we do to correct it? And also the economic part.
Right.
making sure that we reinvest. I'm sorry, I said reinvest. We never did. Make sure we invest in communities of color, institutions of color, and make sure those dollars help the people, those that are out there protesting, their children, their children's children.
So the sacrifice would be worth it.
Exactly. And lastly, I want to put this out there for my colleagues and the educators. It's got to be in the history books because kids say the darndest things, but they also say the harshest things, okay? You have kids who are in blackface. You have kids that are saying, if you remember the Little Rascals, you know?
Yes, I do.
You have kids that say, build the wall and things of that nature, but they don't know how hurtful that is until they understand the advantage that they have and the disadvantage that their advantage, which was created by these laws and public policy created for them. They didn't create them. Okay, but they benefit from the system.
Yes, they did.
And how it disadvantages the others. And again, I like to use this for myself.
And then we'll go straight to the call.
Yes. I always say, place your foot in another person's shoes. Don't necessarily take a walk in them because you might not want to go where they've gone, see what they've seen and done what they've done. But you'll be able to understand what they've gone through and you'll be able to do better. We'll all be able to do better.
Let's go to the phone. We have one caller on the line. Caller, what is your name, please, and where are you calling from?
My name is Ben. I'm calling from Chesapeake.
Ben, what is your question or comment for us today?
Well, my comment is this. I agree with everything that everyone has said. I agree with the callers as well as your guest. But one thing your guest said about timing, and then your caller following him up also mentioned about why now. That has been my comment and my concern all along when it first broke. Why now? This is a hotly contested governor's race. He's been in office a year. Why now? What's going on? Is this a smokescreen? Is there something bigger going on here that we should not take our eyes off of? That's my comment.
Ben, that's a very interesting question and comment. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye now.
Okay, why now? Why now?
Actually, everybody's asking that question.
I know.
You know, again, I said at the top of the broadcast, everyone's asking why wasn't this found before? And because, I mean, this is me. It wasn't a problem. Okay, it wasn't a problem then. Keep in mind, what we were dealing with 10 years ago. We were dealing with the first African American president. Okay, so we were dealing with a real blackface in office, and the things that were coming down because of that, the backlash from the white community who opposed a blackface in power.
Right.
Looking at the rise of the African American community, which by historical study, that's the reason why blackface was created anyway, to make people feel like this person with a black face, no need to feel threatened. You know, put on the mask. He's smiling. He's shuffling and jiving. And he's wearing the mask. So with that being the case, we were dealing with some very hard issues just 10 years ago. And let's just say 8 years ago with Barack Obama and his entire time in office. And then right after him, we had our president that we have now, Donald Trump. We were dealing with another major issue. So the country has been dealing with a lot since that particular time. And again, Governor Northam, he was a state senator. He just had his district at that time. Then from there became a lieutenant governor. Lieutenant governor really not that, they're not in the forefront. The real attention is on the governor in our state, that is, and in a lot of states. So not a lot of attention on him. And then he didn't come across as a guy that would do something like that. He was like one of those, you know, good old boy, and not good old boy in the negative sense, but a nice
in a
guy.
Positive
In a
sense.
positive
In a very
way.
positive
you know,
sense.
What he categorizes himself as an aw shucks type of guy.
Yes.
You know, nobody that's going to really kick up any dust or cause any problems. It doesn't take away from his intelligence, doesn't take away from his professional accomplishments as a pediatric neurologist and so forth, as a medical doctor.
So that's why sometimes people are saying in the conversation that they were surprised, that they were caught off guard because of this persona, public and private persona. And they were surprised and disappointed.
Yes.
Is the word that I've been hearing here.
Yes. So again, one caller said, you know, earlier, and actually several, you know, 35, 40 years ago, if you've been alive that long, okay, if you open up the books on individuals' lives, there's some pretty hideous things there that we judge by today's standards. But at the same time, it does not excuse the act.
Right.
But if you put it in context, the time period of what was acceptable during that time period and what was not acceptable, and what's acceptable now and not acceptable, and someone who obviously by his own admission, by his track record, by personal testimony of African Americans, this says that he's not that guy, and I think he's the right person to help start that conversation. And this brings up another important point, because I have medical doctors in my family. My brother and his wife went to medical school. My sister-in-law is an emergency room physician. My brother is a professor. And these, in the medical field, there is a lot of this type of generalization and discrimination, which also impacts healthcare for the African American community, and how not just white individuals, but what we like to call foreign or non-American born doctors, how they deal with the black community. Okay. And I'm not going to get into some egregious things that I've heard individuals tell me that other doctors have said about their patients and things of that nature, but it happens. So I think this opens up a book and a chapter that we may not have wanted to open up, but it opens it up so we could deal with it again, truthfully, honestly, and earnestly, and come to some real healing and some real solutions.
So that's where we go from here. Is that where we go? We've started the conversation, the racial conversation, this systemic racism, the economic aspects. Is that what we can take away from this to get the conversation started and to move forward?
I don't see any other way we could go. We can't go back. That cat's out the bag. Okay, it's not going back in. Again, we could utilize this as political missiles to destroy individuals for political gain. We could do that. We can find someone else and recycle them and put them in office. But it goes back to what the caller said. What next? The African American community is the one that's going to be being used. And I think for the sake of not just the black community and those that have passed away and the legacy that they've left, but moving forward, for our children. And again, as I stated before, the world has a blackface problem.
Exactly.
So we need to deal with that, because Africans just didn't arrive in America. They went to South America. They went to Latin America. They went to Mexico. They went to all parts of Europe. And then the indigenous people all across the other continents of Australia, the Aborigines, and so forth. All these individuals were subjected to these minstrels.
So this issue is so important.
It is.
So we've been hearing from Dr. Eric Claville, political and legal analyst and the president and CEO of Claville Consulting Group, LLC. Dr. Claville, tell us, where can they find you if they want more information?
Sure. You can actually tune in to WHRO. Here's the local station, Another View, radio.org with Barbara Ham Lee. I appear on there with my talk commentary, The Claville Report, Law, Policy, and Politics. You can go to the website, again, anotherviewradio.org with Barbara Ham Lee, a well-known, wonderful person in this area, also radio personality. And you could click on some of the past links there. And I encourage you to also tune in to her show. She deals with very timely issues just like you as well.
Excellent. And we also heard from Dr. Elsie Barnes. She's a professor in the political science department here at NSU. And on the phones earlier, we heard from Dawn Hester. She's the treasurer of Norfolk here, of course, in Virginia. So it's been a wonderful conversation, a hard conversation, but we've got to keep the conversation going. And that's why we appreciate you. That's why we are Hampton Roads Voices, because we want to hear your voice. So please remember that you can join us every Friday, 5 to 7 p.m. We look at timely topics. We have passionate guests, and we want to know, what do you want to talk about? Please feel free to email me, bkadams@nsu.edu. That's bkadams@nsu.edu. Don't forget that you can find us on all aspects of social media. Ours is online, Hot 91 online, on Instagram and on Facebook. And don't forget, you can hear this, our rebroadcast, every Sunday, and that is from 12 to 2 p.m. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. We'll see you next week. Again, I'm Benita Adams on Hot 91. The views and opinions expressed on this program are not those of Norfolk State University or WNSB FM. Thank you for listening.